Definitely become more visible, and I think that maybe one of the biggest changes is that depictions of sex or representations of sex have become much more graphic on television and in film. If you can just you think what would pass now as an R-rated film compared to 20 years ago, what was considered an R-rated film. So yes, representations of sex I think have become much more graphic. And for television as well, it has become more graphic. Although, and this is like disappointingly, we don't seem to see very serious representations of sex. It still is all about titillation. So you don't necessarily see mature sexual relationships on television, and kind of rarely in movies either, where the sexual relationship is actually meaningful. Instead, it seems to be more about just titillating the audience, so maybe appealing to the lowest common denominator in many cases. Yes, definitely. It definitely has an influence, but again, I would say that this is very similar to what we see for news media, is that it's not necessarily pop culture isn't telling us what to think, but maybe what to think about. I actually think it's both. News media draws from pop culture, and pop culture draws from news media. So how often you'd see, for example, for television, police procedural shows and things like that that are ripped from the headlines, you know. So they'll draw from kind of these salacious stories that are out there in the news. But at the same time, and this is again, I think to our great detriment, news media draws from popular culture in trying to compete with popular culture, and that's where it can get kind of that there seems to be like the wall between news media and entertainment has broken down to such an extent that it's oftentimes difficult to tell the difference between the two. So yes, I think they draw from each other, but I think in one case it may be more damaging than in the other.